Hi guys, Garage RC here, back with another video. Today's video is about the GLA and the servo mods I did a few videos back. Before I get into that, just some housekeeping to do. I want to say some shout outs to some of my friends who have been helping me out in all different ways over the last year or so. I'm going to start off with some Instagram shout outs. So over on Instagram, Mini RC Middle East, great channel if you want to see some rare Mini Zs and some great drifting. Done some beautiful work with him together, so yeah, it's worth checking that out. Liner Rock Customs, my friend Linus over on Instagram, he's done some beautiful work where he's recreated some great mini RC garages and mechanic shops, and he's got a lovely track and some beautiful paint jobs on his cars, so go check out what he's doing. I'll put a link in the description below. Another friend, Adam's Mini Z, that's on YouTube and on Instagram. I'll drop a link below to his channel. It's a relatively new channel and he's got some cool things on there. So you can see GLAs and MA030s and MA020s over there. Also, he's on Instagram as well. Liner Rock Customs is also on YouTube, so I'll drop a link to his channel. It's a relatively new channel, but his Instagram is pretty big. He's got lots on there. Oren Apps is another friend over who's on YouTube and on Instagram who's given me lots of advice to do with rear-wheel drive cars. So shout out to him. It's long overdue. Sorry, friend. And anyone else who I normally shout out to, BMR3. Mr. Beaver's Hobby channel, just a thank you to everyone that really have supported the channel and given me lots of advice over the last year and even the last few months. So okay guys, we're going to get into the video now. So as you guys know, I now love the GLA all-wheel drive. I've had one for a year, but I've really stepped into the car now and I love it. A few hop-ups, a few tune-ups, and suddenly the car is just performing absolutely amazingly. So we did a video not long ago where I built a 94mm GLA, and I talked about how we had to mod the servo arm to get the maximum steering angle, and it does vary from the 98mm to the 94 to the 90. This is a 90 here, and the main issue you have is trying to get the maximum steering angle in both directions, and on this car just about getting that. It's usually to halfway of the screws as far as you want to go. The ride height screw, I think I mentioned this on previous videos, that screw there. So try and go for half of that being covered, and I'm happy with that in both directions, and that's what this car does. With most of these cars, what you find, due to the steering mechanism, they've got the best steering angle of all the all-wheel drive mini RC cars. It's just in one direction it can turn more than the other when you've got the standard servo saver on, which isn't this horn here. And the reason for that is where the steering geometry sits. Obviously you've got the servo this side with the arms, and where the limitation comes is when you're turning to the right and the bell hits the servo arm here. So yeah, the modification I did on the previous video about the GLA 94mm takes care of that. And the gist of the mod is either you take some off the servo holder, the metal servo holder here, which I've done in this one. I've filed off, there's usually a little step here, I've filed that back so the servo sits flush back with the speed controller. For the 90mm, I've also had to trim some off the inside of the plastic of the speed controller just to get that as tight as possible. And then combine that with a servo arm here that comes in the kit. And you put the ball head facing this way. And that will give you perfect geometry then to get maximum steering angles. And this car handles like a rear wheel drive almost. It's got such a good steering angle for its size. So that's not what this video is about. It's not directly about the steering angles. We covered that in the last video about the GLA. This is more about the servo I briefly tested about 3 months ago while I was on holiday, and I posted a video, and that's the Jennings, I always get this wrong, Jennings D561MG, which is the equivalent to the atomic servo. So they're pretty much the same Metal Gear digital servo. It's just whether you want one with an atomic plug on it or a your mini JST or a regular Futaba style plug. So here you can see I've got one of these mounted in a custom 3D printed mount. Now I am actually going to try and put the link to this from my Dropbox in the description, so anybody who's got a 3D printer, the ST file will be in there for you to print it. Now please don't shoot me, it's not perfect, it needs some adjusting to make it fit. In the case of this GLA here, I've actually, if you look carefully inside, you'll see I've adjusted the battery compartment to allow the servo mount to fit. You can equally adjust the servo mount, but it was easy enough just to polish some plastic off just so I've got a nice thickness there. You might see it doesn't sit quite flush, it needs a bit of fine tuning, but it works perfectly. In fact, I could screw that in a bit tighter, to be fair. That's something we can do. But in terms of what it does, it works perfectly. It holds the servo in position. And why am I using this servo? Well, that's what today's video is all about. Now, just so we know what the difference is, that's why I've got this 90mm here. I've got the gyro on top of the GL003DMG servo. This servo is brilliant. Okay, I gave it a few knocks before because it couldn't handle large offset wheels without getting damaged. And that's still the case. If you try and put, say, an Audi R8 2010 shell on there, and you put offset 3 on the front, your servo is going to get destroyed. Doesn't matter which servo saver or horn you have or whatever setting you have on it, it's going to get destroyed. The first time the car takes a corner, the wheel just gets clipped, the servo is going to get damaged. Also, one of the things I've now realized about the servo is that the bigger offset wheels you have, so this is, say, if you're using a 98mm like this car here, it gives torque steer to the car, and that can affect the handling. So not just for saving the servo, but also performance, you're better with a lesser offset if you're going to use this servo. So an offset 1 or 0 is what I recommend for this servo. It's taken me a little while to work this out, but now I've got some test footage to demonstrate the difference of how this servo to that servo performs and the actual difference it makes to performance. So before we get into that footage, I'm just going to run down. So we don't need the 90mm now. I'm just going to put this away. Actually, I want to show you quickly what this is, because this is a very beautiful shell. I'm going to put it on off camera. If any of you follow me on Instagram, you'll already have seen this posted, but this is a beautiful shell. So this is a 350 Fairlady Z. Well, it's not a 350, sorry, but it's a Fairlady Z Datsun. And it is gorgeous. Have to share that with you guys. Absolutely stunning car. And I've already test driven this. I'll see if I get a chance. I'll put some test footage of this on this video. If not, it'll have to be on the next video. But this is a gorgeous car. The offset wheels we had to use here are 0 all round pretty much to actually get this to fit in. And even then you can see we're just about okay. Yeah. So gorgeous car. Complete side note. We're going to move that out of the way now. So what have we got on the car that was tested? So this is my GLA that I've had over a year now. Censored ESC, censored motor. That's a 5250 censored. As you can see, it's got, not at the moment, it's got like a Fly Sky combined gyro receiver. This is because this car's going off to somebody else now, but I tested it with the NB4. So the footage you see is the NB4. Both cars, which is the same car just with different shells, have got the NB4. In the, let me get this right now, in the yellow Audi footage we're using the standard servo, the DMG 003. In the white Audi I'm using this Jennings servo D561MG. And the hop-ups this car has, it's got the aluminium knuckles, which, how much difference does it make having aluminium knuckles? Okay, there's a bit more precision in them. What I like about them is when you're building the car, you haven't got to adjust the plastic joins here. You clip it on, it fits straight away and it's smooth. So for convenience wise, I like the aluminium knuckles. They look nice. How much performance difference do they make? I can't say for sure. I've also got the adjustable springs, shocks on here with red springs, which are a bit softer. I like having a softer setup on these cars generally. I only go harder maybe at the back if I need a bit more rear end sliding out. Generally I go a bit soft with the settings. So red springs, adjustable shocks, everything else is pretty much as is on the car out of the box actually, rear adjustable shocks. It's got the wider setup, which is standard for the 98mm. What else has this car got? So obviously here you can see it's set back up for a Lexan body. This is not how we tested it. We tested it for Mini Z with the side mounts. So yeah, in case you're wondering, it is the same car. And the wheels we used were Mini Z drift tires in the previous video. For this video, because we're doing actually a grip tire test, and they were the Kyosho Shore 20 radial tires front and rear. So that's a bit of stuff. I'll try and put all this in the description. There's too much to keep track of. So the main difference between the two cars is that this car, sorry, not this car, car number 1 has the standard servo that comes out of the box. Car number 2 has got the Jennings servo, or the atomic servo. It's the same size. And the main benefit that I can see straight away is that if you use the larger servo, you get less torque steer. that is what I have found, and rather than pull any punches, I'll talk about it after the video, but you'll see it during the video as well as you watch the footage. It also means I can use the right offset for the shell. So for the McLaren GT3 shell, I can use an offset 2.5 at the front, and it's not going to cause me any problems with torque steer, with damaging the servo. Whereas if I use the original servo, I have to use 0 or 1 offset. Partly because it can damage the servo, partly because of torque steer. And what you'll see in the footage coming up is it takes about 12 laps, but I lap with the ghost car the original servo. Okay guys, so have a look at the footage, see what you think, and then we'll come back and talk some more. So guys, the yellow Audi is a standard spec with the lesser offset wheels. The white Audi's got the Jennings servo. Right off the bat, you can see that the yellow, the standard spec is still a brilliant car. It's keeping up pretty well in these initial few laps. Now, what you can't tell that I can tell you is that it took a lot more adjustment in the steering to try and hold lines with the yellow car, which is a standard spec. Whereas with the modded servo, I was able to pull away because I can hold a line. As you can see, the car, the way it tracks down the straight. Now, I always felt the standard spec is like it's on rails, but with this modified servo situation, it honestly gave the car that much more handling and that much more precision that I just didn't have to think about things. It just refined on each corner. I could just take it tighter and smoother, and you'll just see that as the footage goes along, that I just start to pull away from the standard spec GLA there. So obviously mistakes do happen, but in this footage I try to even that out so that you got the best footage of both cars. And ultimately what I did find was I made more mistakes with the standard spec car than I did with the modded car, and that will obviously make a difference in a race. But I could feel that I could put the power down from that 5250 kV motor and just pull away. And there you can see I've just overtaken on that last corner, and now I'm just pulling away cleanly. It's a beautiful setup and has made me love the car even more. The chassis is so well balanced, and with this extra strength from the servo, it really does make a difference. So hopefully my friend Adam's going to test out his GLA with this servo for me. I've given him a 3D printed servo mount to use, so I'll have some more footage of someone else's feedback on how this works. As it happens, I'm also working with a manufacturer in the US to try and produce a servo which will be sort of as small as the GL servo, but with the power of the Jennings servo we're using here, and see how that works out, but more of that later. So guys, yeah, as you can see, it's a blast. The car does fly around under control and is very smooth to drive. So guys, that's some great footage there. I really enjoyed racing the car, and especially with the Jennings servo, which may I add is very strong. We've done thousands of race hours with those servos with no servo saver, and I've never broken a servo yet, whether it was with an AMZ, BZ3, Geo Racing, the SZ. The servo's held up pretty well. So it's a strong servo even without the servo saver for this size car. Now that's not the end of the story, because I have got a titanium Geo Racing servo, titanium geared servo, which I've yet to use. So this will be my next test to see how this fella fares up against the modified servo I'm using here. So that will come shortly. I think it'll be interesting to see then how this car holds up against the BZ3. So I'll probably do another video where I race it against the BZ3. Now, the BZ3 was my favourite previously. It definitely is a very well balanced car, but I have found shortcomings in it when I've upped the motor, especially for my track. I went from a 5500 kV atomic motor up to a 8000 kV motor, and it kind of ruined the handling a little bit. Whereas I know my GLA can handle a higher motor on the track because I've used 8000 kV fine on the GLA. So what I am going to do to make it fair, I'm going to put a censored atomic speedo and censored atomic motor in the BZ3, and then pitch it against the GLA with a similar spec, and we shall see how they perform. So lots more to come, guys. I hope you enjoyed the content today. If you like the video, please leave me a like, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you guys all next time.